it's not that there's zero fish out there, it's that the quota is so low that it just didn't make sense for Yurok to put it out and sell it at Salmon Fest while we don't have enough to give to our elders like we normally do and provide that to them. If we can't give it to our elders like we should and be able to, there's no way we could put it out here today and sell it per plate. I mean, that just doesn't, you can't even say it and make it sound right.
Here we go. Oh no, there's a dam coming up. Boo! Boo! Down with the dam. Boo!
Well, you think about the period when these dams were built, beginning in roughly 1910, 1911, the first dams on the main stem of the river in the early 1920s, extending through about 1960. Those early dams electrified this region for the very first time. So prior to these dams, there was very little, if any, reliable electric power for homes and businesses in the region. So there were 4 dams that made up the Lower Klamath Hydroelectric Project, one of which has been removed this summer of 2023. The remaining 3 dams will begin to come down when we drain out the reservoirs in the winter of 2024. Once the reservoirs are completely drained out, we'll remove the remaining 3 dams and should have all of the dams and all of the related facilities completely removed no later than October of 2024.
And the reason this dam removal project is happening is 2 key reasons. The first is that these dams hold back this water and it causes it to stagnate and become abnormally warm, which causes toxic blue-green algae blooms, but also impacts the fisheries' health. That's why you see a lot of these fish kills that we've experienced for the last 2 decades. Improving water quality is the first one, but the other one is that by removing these 4 dams, we're opening up over 400 miles of spawning habitat for fisheries.
There's a lot of fish in here too. They'll be jumping. Yeah, I've seen a couple moving around.
Blue Creek, and actually the tribe owns this. Actually, they just got it a few years back. The logging company gave it to us. And actually, right here's the only creek that actually we have a wild salmon comes from, I guess. And actually, these salmon that come from here are much bigger than the salmon that come, from up the river, wherever. I asked somebody how far it went up. They said like 30 miles or so up the creek. They go up there and spawn. We come out here to monitor just mostly the fish that we actually count, right? That's what we want to know the numbers, right? So we can actually get more quota, right? But we do look for, when we do come up there, we do look up for dead fish because, sometimes when the water temperature changes, it can change pretty drastically. So fish start to die quite a bit.
We need to get a little net just for infected fish. These are little ones, I don't know. Oh, right there, yeah. Oh. Look at, oh, yeah. We're all hoping it's not. Oh, we're like, oh, those are. Uh-oh. Oh no, Gloria. Oh yeah, that one. Well, I mean, to see that marking, that's like the beginning of those sores. Don't touch it. I'm like, don't touch it, Gloria. You're looking at sick.
The catalyst for the campaign was in 2002. We were finishing up jump dance towards the last couple of days. The little kids started coming back to camp and reporting that they could catch fish with their hands. They were catching fish with their hands. And at first we just thought it was like, okay, 1 or 2, maybe it was like a, just like a spoof or like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But by the end, on the 10th day, our jump dance ceremony lasts for 10 days. And on that 10th day, it was more than 1 or 2, and it was obvious that the fish were not alive, that they were dying as the little kids were catching them, and they were starting to pool in the eddies, and they didn't look right. They didn't look like they had just died. They were sickly looking, and they were swollen, and you know, they just didn't look right. And that was the start of the 2002 major fish kill, the biggest fish kill in the West Coast.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. So it's like, this area up here is known as Kukashkash, and that is the center of the Shasta world. That is our medicine place, and probably the biggest village on the river. The land was taken by eminent domain. They were complicit in the taking of Shasta lands and the displacement of people. And it's not just random people, these are like people from my family. And it's not been that many generations ago. You know, for the land to be taken, for the dams to be built, and then seeing all the destruction that the dams have caused, you know, you can't help but understand that the dams have to come out, right? I think we all get that, but it's like there's so much more damage that's going to happen between now and then to our sites that it's not if, it's when, and it's where. You know, Copco, the reservoir, we know that we have burials there. When the drawdown happens and the sediment shifts, you know, our burials are going to be disturbed. It's like picking a scab off of a generational wound. That's how it feels to me, and I feel it just kind of sometimes chips at my soul.
I think that there's a certain point where people are just never going to really get it unless they've lived here, unless they understand. Unless you've had to hold your children back from swimming in the river, not take your dog with you to a day on the river because they can't drink it. If they do, they could die. Unless you've had to be in 103, 106 temperature weather and not be able to go to your river and swim. Unless you've had to stand and smell the stench of death from the road and look at your river and feel like it's dying and there isn't anything you can do about it. I think unless you've felt that frustration and that anger of knowing that things that are obsolete, that's what those dams are. They are obsolete. Let's not make any quorums about it. These dams were not offering anything that was benefiting anybody except for what we call, you know, the dam lovers, those that like living on a reservoir, which is a man-made lake. People are really in love with those situations, but it's really important that they understand that what's underneath those are tribal villages, tribal lands, tribal cemeteries, and no one asked the Indians then, because they didn't have to, if they could build those dams and flood out our people. No one had to do consultation with us like they do now. While some, a very, very small minority, will see this as, oh, our poor reservoirs going away, I think indigenous people see it as a very exciting thing to see villages come back and places that we haven't been able to gather and see in 2 or 3 generations, in places that we haven't been able to walk across. We're going to get to do that again.